Hello, welcome back to Butterflies Prospering Wellness Company. I am Crystal Morris, owner of the company, and this is
Michael. I'm one of the therapists, the LPC and LCDs.
so awesome. Today we would like to talk about addressing toxicity in relationships.
So basically with toxicity in relationships, we're going to be talking about the characteristics of what makes a relationship difficult or emotionally volatile, or in some cases like physically or sexually abusive. Basically, for both parties, the relationship is pretty much doomed
Toxic.
from the get-go.
Right. So have you ever, found yourself wondering, is this a healthy relationship that I'm in? Is this toxic? How do I know and how do I get out of that? So we want to share some characteristics and tips and different things on that.
So one of the main things in a toxic relationship is there's a dispersion of power and control. Instead of the relationship being equal in a partnership where you are on the same level, there is usually like one up here, one down here, or vice versa. In some cases, there may be a third or fourth person involved as well, depending upon the circumstances. The main thing, though, is if there is somebody above or somebody below, it is not in a state of balance, and the relationship is not sustainable, or at least it's not sustainable in the long term. So the first one we would like to delve into is emotional abuse. Some characteristics of emotional abuse include minimization, humiliation, gaslighting, violation of trust, and neglect. The first one I'll touch on is minimization. And what this is when someone voices a complaint to their partner, be it male or female, they will dismiss it, as in like either overtly, such as, you're stupid, be quiet, or subtly, such as, oh, that's not that big a deal. And, it's a circumstance like, hey, the car caught fire today. I'm making a jest, but in relationships, if something's unhealthy, the other person won't care about the other person's feelings, and they'll use that as a justification to assert themselves as the dominant partner.
Right. Or I was going to add, just came to my mind, maybe they got a promotion at work or had a good grade on a test or something, something accomplishment, and that individual minimizes, their accomplishment, in the relationship, or what their dream or aspirations are. Oh, that's stupid, or don't acknowledge it. That's good.
Another example would be gaslighting. And this is a technique this is a characteristic that's existed for years, and it's named after a film, actually. And in that film, the husband, what he would do is that he would try and contradict his wife's perceptions of factual situations. In a specific example, the light to the gas in a fire was on, and he would be telling her, no, that's not true at all. No, it's not. What are you talking about? Basically to make the woman doubt her, sanity, and thus she would be easier to manipulate. Now, in a relationship, you'll see this most often like a man perpetrating it to a woman. I mean, that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen the other way around. It's just more common this way. An example of this would be like somebody sees like all these romantic texts between the partner and a coworker, and they're like, "What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. We're just talking about whatever." Or, for example, when somebody catches like a bill that hasn't been paid in months or years, and I'll be like, No, that's not true. I paid that, years ago. Basically making the person doubt themselves so they are easier to control.
Yes, that's good. So the next one we're going to look at is violation of trust. So a lot of times I always say when you don't have trust, do you really have a relationship? So if I can't trust my partner and it's been violated, whether that be an affair, emotionally, physically, that can cause a strain on a relationship. So when you have to build that trust or you don't feel you trust that person, it could be, damaging, or is this relationship toxic? And that's again like the coming to the power, the control, I have to one up you and do things to manipulate. And maybe, I can't forgive that person. So violation of trust can be, maybe you share something in confidence with someone else and they didn't want you to tell it, or just a flat out the affair or betrayal. Okay. And then you have neglect. So a lot of times I hear, if you're being neglected, your needs are not being met in a relationship. Be it that of course, every relationship needs to have assertive communication where I am standing up for my needs and wants as well as, respecting the needs and wants of the other person. So if I'm being assertive and I'm still being neglected, that is a concern. So it's not just a take type of situation. It should be a, deposit, withdrawal. It should be both reciprocated. So the needs, neglect, maybe in your emotions, physical needs. Okay, it can be spiritual, different needs. You have to determine that.
And the next characteristic of a toxic relationship would be intimidation. And two characteristics of that would include using fear, or enticing fear with looks, actions, or behaviors, and also destroying property, and lastly, displaying weapons. Crystal will go into the first of those.
Yeah, definitely, using fear with looks or action. So if you've ever seen someone that might have been in an abusive type of relationship and, they're afraid to say something, or their partner looks at them like, don't I dare you to say something, or, giving them this stern look and, that, if you do tell anybody, this is what I'm going to do, or grabbing them maybe by the arm or pulling them in close or pinching them, these type of things happen because they are sharing too much information. Okay?
And the second one is destroying property. This is another example of a technique that's used to control. Typically, you'll see this in a situation where somebody has a history of physical abuse, but then for whatever reasons, most likely social intervention, if it's like, the police or CPS or something like that, they don't have that option anymore. They can't just, beat the snot out of somebody. So as a way to maintain that level of control in the relationship, they'll start to smash things. They'll punch a hole in the wall. They'll flip a table. They'll break a mirror or a glass table or something. The unspoken intent behind that maneuver is, I can do this to you, or I can still do this to you, even though I may not be doing it right now. So you better do as I say.
Yeah, definitely what you were saying with the destroying the property. Maybe they're destroying the other person's property because they want to control them. Oh, you're not going here. Let me destroy this. Or you're not going to do that, to prevent them. So it can be either way, to release the anger, to control. Of course, it's all about that power and control is what it says.
So the third aspect of it is using privilege. Now, these tend to be related specifically to gender roles. Yeah. Specifically, it tends to be, more often than not, it still happens, a female dominating male, but most often it has to deal with a male dominating female. I mean, statistics don't lie. It tends to happen more often. Not saying there aren't exceptions, but it's just more common. So these tend to be based on gender roles, specifically with a man usually controlling a female. So the first one would be like a person is the man of the house. They are they are the totalitarian dictator of that particular domicile. They are in charge. They are the alpha, the omega, the Parliament Funkadelic, the everything for that particular house. The next is the person has to always have the last word. And lastly, very, very rigid male and female gender roles.
Yeah, I can attest to having the last word. Sometimes, on the female point of view, like, hey, whenever I said is law and what you have to say is irrelevant and doesn't matter. So trying to control in the verbiage, shutting that person down, making them feel as if their thoughts or feelings are invalid or not, important. So with the last word, getting that one up, I'm going to one up this